Here we are then, final turn, 18 of 18, so let's just bring it home. During that turn, he attacked again locally where he could, anywhere he had an opportunity to fire. In the north, we've still got those dragoons bunched up there. We might have a chance to take and clear this hill finally. He did bring his cavalry forward from the woods to my squares, which a human opponent probably wouldn't do. He's still bunched up there in the woods, perfect for that horse artillery that we brought forward. And again, pretty stable here. We're going to continue our firefight with the Spanish, all bunched up there. We are surrounding these woods pretty nicely. And if I had an objective here, and I had to take that objective, it's quite nice, but I don't have the time, and possibly the daylight, and the turns to actually press home any advantage. Down the south, I'm going to continue with my looks from here to be a bit of a messy withdrawal, but it is actually, there's method to my madness. It doesn't look too bad once we actually get it onto a local scale. So this is the last turn, and we'll see how we get on. As always, going to start up here, and it's basically numbers now. I'm going to take as many of them as I can during this turn. Put my troops are in good order. I haven't lost too many. If I come up here and have a look at what we're actually on, lost 3,000 men, 360 cavalry, 1 artillery piece, lost some supplies, and 3 leaders. However, compared to the Allies, they've lost nearly double what they did on the day in real life. Cavalry, they've lost 1,300, 38 artillery pieces, 1,500 supplies, and 11 leaders. So it goes without saying that is a major victory, and by quite a long way as well. But that's because I'm playing AI and not another human. It would be much, much different, I would dare say, if I was to play a seasoned veteran at this, and they would have done things a lot more differently. Alright, we'll crack on, and this round is all about numbers, trying to take as many of the Brits and the Spaniards as we can. So the Northants have got 200, so we'll have a crack at them with this artillery. And then same again. They're routed, they're in chaos. They're surrounded on all sides. What other artillery we've got? We've got that horse artillery we brought up here. We're going to deal with those Spanish. Going to get some canister shot right in their face. And hopefully that's going to take quite a few of them. Not too bad. Alright, we've got some artillery here as well. These are some big guns we think about. We probably won't be able to actually get them in position on this turn, not to be used anyway. We got our horse artillery here that we brought forward a few turns ago. You can see these guys bunched up here as well, and it's those guards. So, fire on the guards, and it wiped out the guards. I mean, his guard units here, he really did not use them as he should have done. They're his best troops, and we've had easy pickings all game. Almost feel guilty how easy it was with those guys, to be honest. Our battery's back here. What can we see with these guys? Just like cavalry still, so we'll have a crack at them. Probably with these guys, cavalry as well. All these British bunched up, not a little bit out of their range, so we'll have a go again at the cavalry. As with this battery here as well, heavy guns, they've done quite well. You can see these Brits here, so we'll take what we can there. These guys, cavalry from behind as we did last time. And again, this battery is just protecting that. I'd say those cavalry are long gone, not going to make an appearance now, a little bit late. We did smash them, they were broken at some point, so they have gone off the field somewhere. Right, as we said, all about numbers with this round. I'm straight into it and start chipping away as much as I can with these guys. Alright, they're in square, they're disordered, they can still fire. Can't really do anything with this cavalry here, just because they're in square. We haven't really got any targets that are lined up for a charge. Did they sort themselves out? They did indeed. Who have we got here? That is the Connaughts, or was that the Prince of Wales Irish? Can't remember now. In any case, okay, they're on high ground, there's not many of them. We'll have a go at them with bayonets. Ooh, interesting. Okay. Up towards a victory location. These guys here. All about numbers now. Because it's the last turn, I'm not overly fussed about order anymore. I'm not going to have another turn to actually need these troops, so we can get a little bit more messy. Try to keep it neat as possible with that front line, especially in the woods. Everybody inching forward in a solid line. But this time it's our last turn, so it can go out the window a little bit. Fire on these guys, but I don't want to just throw away troops for the sake of throwing away. I'm not going to take any major risks. These guys here can come forward in column. Have a go at these guys, fix your bayonets, and then get on in there. He's there. Oh yeah, he's done quite well, led from the front. So we wipe them off the map as well. Who have we got here? That big bunch of British troops. So Worcesters are routed, Northants and Stuart's Brigade. They're in fairly good order. So we'll fire on them. These guys can't go into line. Still fire there. Could have cleared away for our cavalry there, but I don't want to waste decent cavalry. Is it worth? So, ooh. Now, I suppose just for the video's sake, we've got Rowland Hill there, and we got Wellesley. So I am going to bunch up and attack, just for the sake that he's there. He's surrounded. Chances are we'll lose, just because what 6 to 8, a lot of men. So it's going to have to be a fair old attack. So let's see what we can actually do, and who can we bring up. These guys got enough to come down. No. So I can't change their direction, annoyingly, so they can't melee. These guys can, but it's going to cause disruption there, never mind. All about building numbers here. They have meleeed, they fired. They're in line, so they won't get across. No one else we can really bring to bear, unless it's the stacking limitation. Come up here, have a look at parameter data. 1800s? Yeah. So we'll get them in on it as well. So, we're going to have an attack. Let's get Grenade over there as well. And we'll see. I'm not expecting much here. Everyone's disordered. It's chaos, but it's a last-ditch charge to try and get Rowland Hill. And maybe even Wellesley. Let's see. Oof. Oh, okay, they held steady. Fair enough. It was a nice gamble to take, I suppose, just to try and get hold of Wellesley. Never managed it. Stuart was in there as well, just noticed. Alright, so I've left that artillery I've left that artillery unguarded, so I will bring some cavalry up there just to protect it. And we will take them into there. Alright, so what else can we do? Fire on the Spanish. And I'm just going to inch everybody forward just because it's the last turn, and we can get more numbers like this as well. With little or minimal risk across the board, maybe except down in the south for our own troops. So I'm fairly happy with risking a few men. So they've got low ammo, as have these guys from last time. Didn't play it right there with that ammo. I sort of forgot about it, that supply. Didn't have those ammo, the supply carts within 5 hexes. So the net result is my frontline troops here, even though they've got some nice grounding and still defend themselves, they don't have any ammo to go on the offensive, so that was my own fault. This horse artillery can fire on these guys. They've already fired, and they've got low ammo as well, so I haven't really done well there at all, but what I can do is just rotate them out and bring some other line troops in to their place. And it's the guards. Can we finally finish off the guards? What have we got there? 130 odd men. Let's get Putho in there. Who else have we got? They can come down. Change line. And a double attack on the guards to wipe them out, hopefully, once and for all. Now, if this was a campaign game and this was one of the first battles, I'd be delighted for this. But as it stands, it's a small victory on the day. So that's it. The guards are finished as a fighting force. Who have we got here? We've got Warwickshires. Let's take those guys. Turn around. We can't. They've got low ammo as well. Really messed up a bit with that supply. Solignol. Can he ever go? Is it worth it? Probably not. But let's bunch up this line brigade as well. They're also second brigade. Nice. And we'll try last ditch. See what we can get. Oof, what an attack that was from the high ground. Well done, boys. But we did lose our leader, Mr. Solignano there. However, he died a hero. He's definitely up for a medal after this. That was a hell of an attack. So these guys low ammo, can't do much with them. Take some of these cavalry. Skirmishers can't go forward because of those cavalry. I don't want to just use troops for the sake of using them. Bring them forward, get disrupted. What we will bring these guys up here. They're at risk of that cavalry there, I suppose, but not to worry too much. Our German friends. What we've got there, guard troops. I'll have a crack at the guards. Now this is what I mean here, this supply wagon. They had those skirmishers behind our lines that just roam about freely, acting as little magpies, taking any targets of opportunity, and that's exactly what they've done there. Some of the old skirmishers that we were dealing with, they sorted themselves out, and they actually took our supply wagon. So it is a little bit annoying, but it's not the end of the world, in this case anyway. Could have been worse if that we actually relied on that, and that was one of our only supply wagons. But we'll try and win it back now. Which we did. Who else hasn't fired around this area? We've got these guys. Bring these forward to the junction on the road, in the corner. We're going to turn these guys around because they've still got a turn left just to face the Spanish when they come up. Now these are fresh troops, and just to disrupt their attack on the road there's only 3 units, but there's quite a lot of men. We're going to just bring them up from across the river. They're fresh. And our Germans, there's not many of them, going to bring them up to deal with these skirmishers. So we're closing that left flank of Sebastiani now, as we wanted a couple of turns back. And the Germans, I will count because we've already meleeed them. Not my best performance by German troops, but with German troops. But we'll bring them up to the river out of the way. We'll bring the supply wagon up as well. These line troops, we'll get them in the centre just to deal with anyone that's coming through the woods. Our cavalry, we've dealt with skirmishers before, we're going to bring them back to our supply dump. Bring these guys up to the road. And continue our withdrawal from this general area. So who have we got here? Alright, they're routed, they can carry on going, get these supply wagons out of the way. And you can hold station and just hold the road and sit it out there. It doesn't look like there's any immediate threat. So you can stay where you are and establish a sort of a new front line, as it were, in this sort of general area. And then they need to get you out of the view of these guns. There we go, and we can do that by just nipping behind this church chapel here. We did say these dragoons are going to face these troops that have broken and run off into the woods. That's exactly what they're going to do. Start withdrawing these hussars as well. They don't need to be quite so close to the Spanish, so bring them back, but always turn them around to face the enemy, just in case the enemy follows up. Get these dragoons out as well. And these guys. And these ones. So it didn't go that well in Talavera, to be honest. They can't remount. Neither can these guys because the guard are there. But we'll get the guard out of there. I suppose we'll edge these guys into the woods. Bring these up to the corner. Face them round just in case. And I think, just having a look here, it's pretty much all I can do. It's just a numbers round. This one, the last round, we'd won the battle a couple of turns ago, and it was just about trying to take numbers with them. So we will do an end of battle report in a second once they've done their turn. Just trying to have a look. Can I actually use anybody else? These guys we can. Wellington stood, he held those guys up there. Our squares, I suppose we can fire on that cavalry. These guys will probably not have enough points to get forward there. Anyway, I don't really want it just because there are some dragoons there. But I will put them into square just in case he decides to come out of the woods on his next turn. Not expecting anything major on his last turn. Done quite well, but I will get back to you once he's done his last turn. So that is the time limit, that is the scenario done then. We have a look there and we can see our infantry losses are 3,000, 3,500, 370 cavalry, 1 artillery. We only lost 1 gun and a few supplies. 4 leaders went down. However, their butcher's bill was massive, almost double what it was on the day. 13,300 infantry, 1,500 cavalry, 38 artillery pieces and a hell of a lot of supplies, and 12 leaders as well. Needless to say, we also captured that victory point, which was probably his line of retreat, and we held that for an easy 100 points. All in all, we've got over double what was required for a major victory. Now, I was playing AI. If I was playing a human, it would have been a different story. But if we survey the battlefield then, and have a look, and going back to our initial plan, right from the start from that video, we had a plan of sweeping around from the north. Now, that sweep, it did work. It probably took a little bit longer than I had anticipated, but I had anticipated more resistance up there, so it was a bit more wide arcing than I would have actually have done if nobody was up there. But anyway, the plan worked. Now, we had disparity in numbers. The Allies had more than we had, or more troops on the day than we had. But I'd like to think, maybe apart from the south, it didn't really show anywhere. We weren't pushed back anywhere major, didn't have any major problems with that battle. Apart from Talavera itself, that was the only thing. But I hadn't actually planned in the beginning to really attack Talavera. It was sort of a spur of the moment thing. My steamroller plan did not come into effect. That's just because we got held up just on the south of this high ground up here. And he bunched up in the centre. And even if we had the numbers to sweep down from the north, it would have been real tough fighting in those woods. I dare say with 6:45 PM, we wouldn't have had the time to actually do it. Other mistakes I made were my supply in the centre as well. I was a little bit lax, a little bit lazy with my supply. And my frontline units here on this high ground, where they would have been quite effective for about 2 turns, I think it was, I didn't have enough ammo. So definitely, every day's a school day. I'm always learning with this game still, and lesson learned here was definitely to keep my units in supply. I even said that in my previous videos, to practice what I preach. The Spanish, the British were easier than I thought, just because of how the AI used them. We wiped all his guard units off the face of the map almost. He bunched them up from the start. He decided to attack my centre when we had our battery up in this area, and that really got the ball rolling. He gave me the advantage right from the start, really, with the British, and they underperformed. There wasn't any. Certainly not as history suggested. He bunched people up. That's what the AI does. Again, I'll say if you play another human, it'll be a completely different story. Whereas the Spanish, who I actually thought would be fairly straightforward to roll up and defeat anywhere, there was. When I found them local and I had the advantage in numbers, man for man, they are better. However, I had an awful job with this down in Talavera. They broke my guard units. This artillery, they had more than I thought. The Germans broke as well, and I didn't get really far. I mean, I dipped my toes into Talavera. It was never about taking Talavera, but I found it quite hard going. they got a real good defensive position. They had numbers, and I suppose I could have actually, if I had planned from the start to go into Talavera, planned it a little bit better. We did have a gap up in this area here, but we didn't really let it show. Fairly happy with it overall, to be honest. Saying about the Spanish, I actually played a scenario that I posted in the group with Romero with actually taking control of the Spanish, and I didn't have much hope for them, but they managed to scale some heights next to the British and performed admirable. They performed well. But there we go. So lessons learned, I suppose, or tips to leave this with. That's our final situation. We got a plan. We had a plan in place at the start. The plan broke or didn't go according to plan almost from the start. However, we had to have a plan rather than just putting units in willy-nilly, piecemeal, and just attacking for the sake of attacking. We had that plan, and we were able to see big picture stuff early on and actually try our best to plan. Survey. You've got to survey your avenues of approach. Don't just go across in a straight line. Try and have a look. Sometimes the longer way round, as we did on that high ground, may actually save your troops, take a little bit longer to come into play. However, in the long run, it might be more beneficial. So don't just send troops on wild goose chases through forests and woods and towns and things like that. If you can, if it takes a little bit longer, skirt round and try and keep your formation as best as possible. And be open to adapt to any changes in the battlefield. So we had that plan, but we adapted quite well. I'd like to think we adapted quite well with as the situation changes. It's a dynamic, it's a fluid situation, and we adapted quite well to it. Don't be tempted to use all your troops, especially your cavalry. You've got to take care of your cavalry. Don't just use them as a panzer tank charging in to bash through enemies' lines and things like that. There may be rare occasions that you can do that when you've got cavalry en masse against weak units, not in square, for example. However, we used them, I think, quite well, and it was a good example of how to use cavalry, or one way to use cavalry. The facing with cavalry is critical because you're going to waste a turn if they're not facing that unit the next turn. You're going to have to anticipate where a unit might be, so it's a bit of a guessing game. Otherwise, you've got to turn them around, and anytime you move them, you can't charge them. You've got to charge them from the start of a turn. We sighted our artillery quite well as well. We made good use of artillery over here. These guns especially had some admirable salvos, quite accurate. French artillery was very good in the day. And we set up that ground battery up in this area initially. And then he decided to attack it. As I said, that gave us an advantage from the off. Rotate your troops as well. As they start to get some fatigue and they might be disordered, don't be afraid to actually rotate them out. Don't keep them on the front line. The more fatigue they get, the more morale goes down, the more likely they are to break. And if they break, they can just sort of go anywhere, causing chaos in your back line. Run into some cavalry that you've carefully placed, ready for a charge. Routed infantry run in there, cause some disorderment. So yeah, don't be afraid to rotate them out. That's why we keep a reserve and not have one big front line with everybody there. And I did rotate some troops up here, so always have an eye on your morale. Probably didn't go into my leadership all that much, just because I tried as much as possible to keep all units and divisions together, and there wasn't much intermingling. I mean, down here in Talavera, it got a little bit probably confused, and if it was a longer game, I'd certainly have to maybe sort my leadership out. How did we do for leaders talking about that? So we lost one brigadier general, we lost von Burstein, major general, we lost Joseph, but we did talk about that, and a colonel. Whilst the Allies lost an awful lot. Who have they lost? Like Major General John Mackenzie went in the fighting over here when we crossed the river. Who else is noteworthy? I suppose the captains are as well. Lawson went. We got Retterberg. And Colonel Anonymous. It's a huge family, this Anonymous family, and the Phantom family. You'll find a lot of officers have the same name. So leaders, we don't necessarily target leaders. I did there just because it was a nice opportunity to Wellington. Probably have to change his underwear now. Actually, he won't. He would have stood still and stood firm. But there we go. So that's a whole scenario played out against the AI. That's how it ended up. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been worthwhile. Quite enjoyed doing it, actually. It's quite hard to narrate as you're playing. Surprisingly hard. I have to thank the original Gronyard for suggesting this video in the comments on another YouTube video. He said, you've done all these tutorials. It'd be nice to actually put them all into effect and do a whole scenario. So to that end, the next plan, or the next series will be similar to this, so a playthrough, but against a human opponent. So you can see JTS games at their best. It is a whole new ball game, playing somebody that actually knows what they're doing, rather than AI that does all sorts of crazy things and bunches up 1,800 guard units or whatever it might be, and decide to attack a grand battery. Not much else to say. Again, hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate all the comments, appreciate all the likes that I'm getting. And I'm going to sign off there and leave you to it. And thank you very much, guys.